Morning, it's 10:30 and Policy Resource Committee on Tuesday 21st of January. I'd just like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded, but it's voice only, so speak up. Your faces and that won't be shown. I don't know why that is, but okay, so the recording will be voice only. Can I have the Sederunt? Apologies.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have no apologies. All 19 members are present.
Thanks. Any declarations of interest?
Chair, I was wondering if I could have a point of order before we start that, because it may affect declarations of interest. We have two items on the agenda today that refer to community and customer services. As a committee, we do not have delegation because it was removed by full council to discuss those issues. So therefore, if we were to discuss them, they should either go to the appropriate parent committee or to full council, as we don't have the delegation as deemed in the frontis of this committee. There's also another paper at the end, an exempt one, which is also could be deemed a community and customer services paper. I think we shouldn't be discussing those.
Which is
chair of? It's the one on exempt item. Item 17.
okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this matter was given careful consideration by the proper officer. When the decision was taken to establish the CCS committee back at full council in November, it was understood there would have to be a period of transition and that business would have to be dealt with, particularly that relating to the budget, by Policy and Resources Committee, continuing up to the date of the first CCS committee. The first CCS committee does not commence until the 18th of February, and therefore its work doesn't officially commence until that first meeting. The scrutiny of the budget proposal does require to be made before the 18th of February, as does the feedback on the National Library Strategy. That must be given before the 31st of January. The proper officer has looked at the matter, and it is his view that both items of business and indeed the final item of business as an exempt item should be legitimately determined by this committee, given its overall strategic role.
Okay, Ivor.
Chair, I have the minute here, and there is no word in the minute that we had an understanding that it would be after the budget. The only item that was agreed that would be taken after the budget was the work of the subcommittee that still was outstanding. It was nothing to do with the actual decision. We have made the decision that this would happen. Now, this does not stand delegated. If you look in the schemes of delegation on the committees on the website, none of them say that community and customers come to this committee. Now, as such, they should not be discussed here because we do not have a remit. Now, as chair of scrutiny, I would be very disappointed if we are taking something, in my view, doesn't meet the terms of governance.
Okay, I hear what you say. I think we are taking a pragmatic approach by this administration. I think owing to the timescales and that, we won't take it. Thanks. Moving on. No, moving on. Minute of the meeting of the 3rd of December 2013. This is up for approval.
Happy to move it, Chair. A second.
Right, moving on to item 4.
Chair, sorry. Can I just say, under declarations of interest, if we are taking all the papers down, I'm going to have to declare an interest in the exempt item. I'm sorry, I didn't realise you'd moved on to the minutes. I should have been paying more attention.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, noted.
Thanks. Item 4. This is the Local Government Finance Settlement Report by Head of Finance. So, moving on. This is a report provides member with an overview of the recently
Chairman,
announced
if you
local
don't
government.
mind, it's a point
Sorry,
of order. It's a point of information and
well,
order
what is the point of order, Councillor Maitland?
that we are asked to give a reason when we make a
So
declaration of
which
interest.
point of order is that, Councillor Maitland?
It is in order of the...
Which point order is that, Councillor Maitland?
Well, my understanding is that in terms of governance, you have to give a reason. The member has to give a reason, and we want to know that.
Okay.
Unless this is another issue of pragmatism by this administration.
Councillor Dietz, can you give a reason?
My son has just started a job with Kia, and for that reason, I think it's only correct. It's perception more than anything else.
Thank you. Back to item 4. This report provides members with an overview of the recently announced local government finance settlement 2014-15 with the details of the provisional funding allocations for each council for 2014-15. As was anticipated at the full council on 9th of December 2013, overall funding available to local government and individual local authorities is in line with the previous local government finance settlement, which covered the 2-year period 13-14, 14-15. However, this is based on local authorities agreeing in principle to maintain a council tax freeze, maintain teacher numbers in line with pupil numbers and secure places for all probationers who require one under the teacher induction scheme. The cost to the council of not complying would be £3.1 million. The draft administration budget presented to full council on 19th of December 2013 would not incur any financial penalty, and the amounts announced are consistent with the previously released indicative figures. A report on the financial implications associated with the Children and Young People's Bill is due to be reported to members of the Education Committee on 28th of January 2014. Paul, do you have anything to add? Do you
Nothing to add other than in terms of the report on the Children's and Young People's Bill for the Education Committee, I now understand that's been moved to the meeting in February. I think it's in the 16th or 19th of February.
Okay, I'll now open up the meeting to members. Ian?
That's it now. Thanks, Leader. Just in regards to, it's the 3.1 million that would be revoked if we were to implement an increase in council tax. At the budget consultation meeting, certainly Andy and Estelle, it was raised in regards to somebody put forward from the public that we should actually increase the level in council tax. We're the lowest council tax. We do have the lowest council tax threshold across the whole of Scotland. Certainly I don't advocate that in any strong terms, but to get even a small marginal, it's quite clear we'd have to increase it by nearly 7%, and I think that's distasteful, and I think it's been imposed on us by the present government as we stand. I think I find it's very difficult to stomach as we go forward over the next year in particular. I mean, I really do. The one power that local authorities have is in regards to that one thing. It's raising taxes, and it's been taken away from us completely. Leader, that's the only real point I would want to make in regards to that. Other than that, we've got no option but to agree to this.
Anyone else? Colin?
Just out of curiosity, I mean, the figures are obviously in line with what we've previously known, and that means that the draft budget's obviously very much in line. But in terms of the funding, we know what the 1.5 million Children's and Young People Bill is. What's the other 51,000? What exactly is that?
Paul?
It's made up of a number of elements. Probably the main one is a contribution towards the National Care Homes for Children, increase that Scottish Government are supporting. There's an appendix, I think is it Annex G, Gillian, that refers to the detail of that. But that's the main element of it.
Okay, can we go to the recommendations? Can we note the details of the local government finance settlement and note the terms attached by the Scottish Government to settlement package? Okay, moving on to item 5. This report asks members to scrutinise the details of those elements of the administration budget proposal 2014-15 to 2016-17 as presented at full council on 19th of December 2013. This relates to the Chief Executive Service support. Appendix 3 to the report provides templates outlining the details of the savings proposals for the Chief Executive Services, and these have been included in the budget consultation process. They are before members today for scrutiny. There are basically 5 saving areas: efficiency programmes, procurement, review of supplies and services, management staffing reductions and associated savings through review of service activities, corporate control of staff costs, single status phase 2, non-schools property rationalisation and corporate travel savings. The administration draft budget proposal does not reflect any additional policy development initiatives that are specific to the Chief Executive Service. However, it is important to recognise that previously agreed policy development initiatives, including the Modern Apprenticeship Scheme, continue to be supported, and that funding for the Graduate Placement Programme is now reflected within the wider employability policy development proposals. This is the administration's draft budget, and I'm going to ask Colin as a budget lead if he has anything to add, or if he merely wishes to take members' questions.
Nothing to add, Chair.
Okay, members? Ivor?
It's with relation to the non-schools property rationalisation saving. It was just for clarity.
Could you just pages?
It's page 58 and 59. It's with regard to, on page 59, the table at the top where we have the property that is possibly going to be vacated. Could I have clarification on the fact that it said it must be noted that which of these properties will be vacated is subject to further, more detailed scrutiny. Detailed what? Are there fallback positions for other properties if we're not taking those? Because we've allowed 31,000 for slippage, but if you take one of them out, say Marchmount House didn't come out of that, then you couldn't address your full 375,000. So is there another list somewhere where we have fallback positions?
Okay, go on.
No, there's not another list. That's why there's an allowance of 31,200. The advice of officers is that they can vacate the properties, but there is that figure within there to give an element of flexibility.
Ian?
I think when he first got into administration leader, he gave us a reassurance that community centres and libraries in particular would be protected. Just looking for that reassurance again when it comes to this. And the other thing that came up through the budget consultation, which hopefully you'll take cognizance of, and I think you've discussed you already will, and that is in regards to a longer lead-in time when it comes to consulting with the public. Reassurance on that as well, please, Leader.
Colin?
The proposals in the budget, which are actually, I think, in relation to the next stencil, number 6, in terms of community centres, don't have any proposals for closures, obviously, like last year's. I think the feedback that we've been getting is that the consultation meetings that took place last week were actually very positive. I think the public welcomed them, but we see that as the start of the process, by no means the end of the process. And I think we have to consult the public in advance rather than when we get to a stage of a draft budget. So I think it's very much the start of what is going to be an ongoing dialogue with the public. I think the challenges that we face in the next 2 years are massive. The government's cuts are obviously going to come tougher over the next couple of years. The leeway that we have to find savings is going to be reduced, and there are going to be some incredibly tough decisions to be taken over the next 2 years. So we need to be engaging with the public as early as possible.
Okay, we'll move back to item 5. Any other questions on item 5? Councillor Maitland.
Thank you. On page 54, this is with respect to management and staffing reductions through review of service activities. Now, if I've read this right, Leader, this is hung on a review that happened 3 years ago. And you know, I'm a little bit concerned about the use of the word anticipated and savings are most likely to be realised from staff reductions. it's not clear to me where and which staff are coming out of this. If we had a review, we would know, presumably, where the staff are coming from and what the impact is going to be. So could somebody possibly tell me what is anticipated to happen with respect to these people?
Colin?
Kind of tempted to point out that's a 3 years too late question. I mean, this is an ongoing process that was started in 2012-13 when we received, I think, some of this research.
Sorry, Councillor Smith, we're having a wee bit difficulty hearing over some of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing process, and the estimate from officers that we can save a further 350,000 this year. Which individual members of staff leave will be determined by who actually applies for early retirement or voluntary redundancy. The administration's got a clear policy. We don't support compulsory redundancy, so we envisage this being achieved through a voluntary scheme.
Councillor Scobie?
Yeah, Chair, if I could return to page 59 on the property rationalisation, or rather closure. Obviously,
Sorry, can I ask everybody to speak up, please? So, okay. It's very difficult to hear. I don't know why that is. Unless can you turn it up a bit? It's a maximum, is it? Okay, thanks.
So many bother hearing
That'll
you,
be the
Ronnie.
first time.
However,
That'll be the first time you've been asked to do that.
the first time I've been asked to speak up is usually shut up. However, you know, I refer to Ailsa House on the papers here, and the continuing closure and the ability to house people. My understanding is that we have been unable to do the 13-14 in bringing people out of buildings that we hope to close, and here we've got another one that we're looking to close in 14-15 when we haven't finished the programme for 13-14. So it's in here with a saving, modest as it may seem, 12,500, but it's the whole programme. We are waiting on a report coming back to Policy and Resources on the savings in 13-14 and whether those were achieved. And here we've got another one for 14-15, and it's our ability to accommodate those that were speaking here as closing the building and moving people to other places.
Colin?
I think there's a report further on in terms of the revenue budget that highlights where we are with the individual savings. I think you're right. Some of the savings haven't been met, and that's within the revenue budget. But what we've got here is the proposals for 2014-15. If a member thinks that they can't be achieved, then that's something that needs to be highlighted as part of the scrutiny process. I don't have any information in front of me that says they can't be achieved. There is a cushion there of 31,000, but if any member thinks they can't be achieved, then they need to obviously give us specific evidence of that, and that's obviously something that needs to be scrutinised further.
On the point of evidence, Chair, it's, as I've said, that we've been unable in the 13-14 programme to relocate officers in some of the buildings that were identified for closure in 13-14. And here we have another building in 14-15. So the evidence that Colin refers to or requests there is on 13-14, and indeed the rationalisation of services, where I regard that we were trying to move or relocate the one-stop shop and ended up with two one-stop shops in Stranraer. I could go on and on in terms of evidence, Chair, but I merely highlight in terms of scrutiny today.
Okay, Alec.
Thanks, Leader. As Councillor Smith says, we're looking at 14-15 here. We have achieved the budget savings in 13-14. It would be fair to say that there are two processes. One is the rationalisation of office buildings, and the other is the integration of libraries, museums and community and customer services. The two have become somewhat entwined in Stranraer in particular and in Newton Stewart because of the fact that there's been an interchange of buildings. I'm quite satisfied that there is one area where there's a move required to achieve all of the savings in which were earmarked for 13-14. As I say, these savings are not absolutely required because we have already achieved a balanced budget or will achieve a balanced budget by the end of the financial year. We are still moving on those. There are a number of issues which we are working our way through. Insofar as Ailsa House is concerned in Stranraer, I can answer that one specifically. There are proposals under discussion which will result in Ailsa House being vacated early in financial year 14-15.
Okay, Councillor Maitland, sorry I didn't let you back in there.
Yes, could I please go back to item number 5, which are on page 54 and 55. It's still not clear to me what we're actually trying to accomplish in this particular saving. The suggestion is that there will be an impact on support to services, but much will depend on who comes out and where. It's not going to be, there is no restructuring and redesign of services put into this particular saving. So what I would really like to know is, for example, do we know what impact a saving here would have on, for argument's sake, social work? Risk management, business continuity and data protection. Do we know what impact that would have?
Okay, Colin, do you want to go on?
Well, I mean, I'm curious at the question, because it's a question that Councillor Maitland, I think, obviously for political reasons, didn't ask 2 years ago and didn't ask last year when the same stencil was put forward. This is a continuation of previous savings, and what we're asking of officers' professional judgment is that further £350,000 savings can be made. The individuals that leave will be determined by who applies for ERVS and how people are redeployed. I don't know if Alex got anything to add about how he tends to implement this, but certainly that's the information we've been given. It's a smaller saving than last year. I think one of the issues that we're clear about is the fact that this will be probably the final year we'll be able to make savings in terms of restructuring that particular department.
Okay, Councillor Geddes.
Thanks very much, Leader. With your leave, sir, I'd like to go back to page 59 to the points that Councillor Scovey made. I would think my point, Leader, is that it's absolutely imperative that this process, by its very nature, sensitive as it is, will be much better managed than what took place in a Wigtonshire context in relation to proposed closures being effected during the current financial year. I'm sorry to have to say, Leader, it was not a well-handled process. It brought it reflected no credit in the Council in the way in which it was handled. I think there were governance issues and indeed scrutiny issues which arose and were never properly, in my view, never properly determined. And as I say, I think it's absolutely essential and imperative that when we do this and we follow it through and implement these savings for next financial year, we do it in a proper, transparent fashion and we consult and notify and inform where it's essential, sir. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Jim?
Thanks, Leader. Just on the back of what Councillor Geddes has said, there are still ongoing cost ramifications of the previous round of property rationalisation. We are currently spending money on buildings which may not be there in 3 years' time.
Comment noted. Anyone else? No. If we go to the recommendations, we've scrutinised the details of these elements. Thanks very much. Moving on to item 6. This is, as with the previous report, the report asks members to scrutinise the details of those elements of the administration budget proposal 14-15, 16-17 as presented at full council on 19th of December. That in this case relate to community and customer services. This is the same process as the CES report previously, with that Appendix 3 to the report providing templates outlining the details of the following saving proposals in relation to community and customer services. Community facilities review, management staffing reductions and associated savings through review of service activities, third sector funding, integration of libraries, customer service centres and registration, leisure and sport cultural service, maximising revenue, also leisure and sport, education and community sports hubs. Appendix 4 to the report provides further templates outlining details of the following proposed policy development funding allocations in relation to community and customer services: area committee grants, Dumfries and Galloway legacy plan, major festivals and event strategy. As with the previous report, I'll hand over to the budget lead, Colin Smith, to either comment or take questions. And again, any issues arising will be dealt with between now and the budget setting day. Can I open up to members? Ivor?
Chair, I would move that we note this report as we have no delegated authority to take any further action.
Okay, this is a procedural. Is anybody anything else? Anybody amendment to that?
People don't want to ask any questions, don't have to ask any questions. Presumably they plan on scrutinising it after the budget's been agreed. It's an interesting discussion to be had maybe at the Scrutiny Committee.
Jim?
Thanks, Leader. I do indeed want to ask some questions on this, particularly page 85.
Okay, Alistair first and then Ian.
Thanks very much, Leader. Since Councillor Hislop has raised a procedural issue, I would move a procedural amendment, in fact, that we proceed as accords today and we deal with this matter as it's set out in the report.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor?
Okay, thank you, Chair. We have a motion before us simply to note this report, and we have an amendment to consider as per the recommendations. So everyone happy to proceed? Yeah, the amendment.
Can I have it recorded that because we have no delegated authority within my motion?
Okay, so the motion is simply to note the report.
Alex?
Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't like to disagree with a member. I think the issue is that Councillor Hislop considers that this committee has no delegated authority.
Okay, so happy to proceed on
Chair,
that.
that's not what I said. I said because we do not have. I didn't say because I considered. I said because we do not, according to the standing orders.
A point that this committee's got
just a
delegated
second,
authority
Councillor
on
Smith.
finances of the council.
Yeah. Councillor Smith?
This committee has delegated authority over the budget and the finances of this council. I mean, it's factually incorrect what the leader's saying. Well, sorry, the former leader.
Absolutely, it's finance.
Yeah, just happy to proceed to the vote then. Leader? Sorry.
Takes me a while.
Yeah.
Amendment.
Deputy Leader?
Amendment.
Councillor Carruthers?
Amendment.
Councillor Davidson?
Amendment.
Councillor Diggle? Councillor Dykes? Councillor Geddes? Councillor Hislop? Councillor Lever?
Amendment.
Councillor McGregor?
Motion?
Councillor Maitland?
Abstain.
Councillor Marshall? Councillor McCaughtrey?
Amendment.
Councillor McClung?
Amendment.
Councillor McComb?
Amendment.
Councillor Ogilvie?
Amendment.
Councillor Scobie? Councillor Smith? Councillor Tate?
Amendment.
We'll hear what the vote is first.
The amendment is carried with 15 votes for the amendment, 3 for the motion and 1 abstention.
Okay, you want to make a point, Councillor Willoughby?
This has been recorded but not videoed, and some folk never used their mics, so, you know, that might not stack up with the recorded version because some folk never used their switches to... You must use your switch on a recorded thing or you don't get it recorded.
Yeah, I think that's a point, and I've noticed that other committees and that as well. It's the same, even when it is being recorded, video recorded. Okay. So, is there any questions on the report? Jim?
Thanks, Leader. Looking at page 85, the proposed changes to the library service. Now, we purport to be safeguarding frontline services. According to this table, customer service provision is more than halved in 5 locations. An indicative population model has been used to indicate the new proposed library opening hours. Does this model pay any attention to current library usage?
The answer to that is yes.
It does.
It does, yes.
Well, I'm surprised at that in the case of Wigtown Library, with over 49,000 users, and it is more than halved in terms of opening hours. Could I have an explanation, please?
Colin, do you want to come in?
Can you repeat the question, John? I'm not entirely sure what specifically you were asking. Sorry, say that again.
Yes. The IPM formula uses population, but does it give any credence to current library usage?
It's based on population, but I think you were talking specifically about Wigtown, and basically what's been suggested in the report is that although population-wise Wigtown would fall under category 6, what it's been suggested is that it would potentially fall under category 4. I think if you look at page 87, 86. I think the other key point to make as well is that we've built in an element of flexibility in this. Now, I'm not suggesting that we can start reworking it because I think the model is a perfectly reasonable model and it's the one that's been used in the past basically. But there's an element of flexibility. I think the overall saving is somewhere in the region of £80,000 more than we've actually put into the budget. And obviously these proposals will need to come before the Community Customer Services Committee for detailed scrutiny as they're being implemented. And there's an element of flexibility in there, so there's particular circumstances that mean there should be changes. You've got that £80,000 flexibility to build in there. But I mean, you know, the bottom line is this, that we have to find £7 million worth of savings. We can keep all the libraries open exactly the same as they are at the moment. We could have taken the alternative, which is to close libraries. We chose not to close any libraries. We chose instead to go through the integration process right across every library. I think the benefit of additional services being put into libraries is something that communities are actually welcoming. We could, as I say, followed the route of other councils like Murray and tried to close our libraries, and we chose that the best route was not to close them. But inevitably what that means is that there has to be savings made elsewhere, and that inevitably means reduction in hours in a lot of places.
Jim, you want to walk in?
Thanks, Leader. I welcome the pledge there to keep libraries open, but nevertheless the fact remains that an approximately 2% overall budget cut is translating in some cases to a 50 or 60% reduction in opening hours. Another wee point about the formula, Leader, does it take any account of the fact that the library may be the only council building in communities? You know, we have made this a mistake in the past of not looking at the totality of council buildings. And if the library is the only building which is available to the public, to half the library hours is a very, very significant blow to certain communities.
This paper, as Colin said, has got £80,000 worth of flexibility within that, and these can be, these can be considered, or we can get back and fuller answer with that. But you've got to look at the library service and the community customer services and integration, and look at it as a whole, not just the library services and what's provided in the communities, because some communities didn't have any community customer services at all. And now they are getting the 3 services provided within that. But, it's up for to members to consider that. Colin?
I think it's a valid point. We go back to the Wigton example. The current registration per week is 3 hours. What we're proposing to do is to increase that to 17 hours. So there's an increase in registration service. There's a reduction in library service.
I think the other point of that is it's open at different hours to suit individuals. That it could be at night time, it could be on a Saturday morning, it could be when people come home from their work. But these are all things that's it's considered within this. We've got Ian first.
Thank you, Leader. The last 2 questions on the last report would apply to this, but I've had the answers for them. In regards to service reviews, just a reassurance, I think I've had them away from committee, but we will have a full service review when it comes to these going into next year. One other question in regards to leisure and sport, and there's an inequality.
Page is that, Ian?
It's not specific, it's just in regards to leisure and sport in general. This is going into next year, but I just want an understanding how the administration will take it forward at next year. Is an inequality, Annandale and Eskdale in particular look for parity across Dumfries and Galloway. We look for some kind of levelling of the finance that goes into leisure and sport in Annandale and Eskdale compared to other parts of the region. How do the administration intend to do that?
We can have ongoing discussions about this, but we're here to actually scrutinise these papers at the moment. So, there are other opportunities to do that.
Just a reassurance in regards to the service reviews, and I'll bring that other point up at a different time.
Colin?
Your point in service reviews was what's on, Ian?
Just so we get a thorough, proper service review. We should have had them this year. It wasn't undertaken. It was only part undertaken by, I would say, Plan, Housing and Environment. But just for reassurance for next year that all services departments within the Dumfries and Galloway Council get a full and thorough service review.
There's nothing within the budget that talks specifically about service reviews, but to give the administration's view, we believe that all departments should be having service reviews. I think the PH&E one was a good example, and education's obviously agreed to have a service review recently as well. I think that's a process that all departments benefit from going through.
Okay, Alistair first, then Willie.
Thanks very much indeed, Leader. You used the term, the word flexibility, sir, and it's a specific query in relation to the Wigton Library facility. This facility, Leader, as I understand it, has a crucial role to play annually in the very successful Wigton Booktown Festival. I take it, in fact, that will still be permitted to continue. I think it's used as, the library is used as a base for various events, etc. So these proposals will in no way affect that. It was remiss of me, sir. I should have given you advance notice that I wanted to raise that point. Thank you.
It's a major event, so it'll be looked at on that basis.
Grateful, sir. Thank you.
Willie?
Thanks, Ronnie. Page 79, Chair, CCS has achieved considerable efficiency savings over the past 3 years through streamlining, integration, etc., and staff reductions. I find it difficult to scrutinise this one against 2013-14 and supporting the statement made by Alistair in terms of the process that took place in 13-14, or indeed the process that did not take place, because when I turn to taking into cognizance page 79 and that first sentence, and then look at page 71, community facilities are made up of town halls, village halls and community centres, which provide space for groups of individuals and community groups to meet and undertake group activities. In the haste to integrate the services, and Policy and Resources were well made aware of the situation in 2013-14. In the haste to integrate services, we have ended up with groups not being facilitated or told that the library is no longer available for lets. We have a meeting coming off with Mr. Haswell on this very issue, but we have no alternatives to offer as we speak, or at least on the discussions that I have had with the Chief Executive. And in terms of the rationalisation of buildings that has been identified in 2014-15, this would have a bearing on any discussions that we have in terms of providing facilities for groups to meet that use the library and now are being squeezed out of the library, with it being literally the only place where people can meet for whatever purposes. So within this, what I'm saying is I find it difficult to try and scrutinise this in 14-15 against the 13-14 budget. And while Mr. Haswell says figures have been achieved against that, then we still do not have the integration fulfilled yet, and there are major problems in the west of the region. So I merely make that point within the 14-15 relating back to 13-14. Chair, in the report as well, it talks about transfer of village halls, and I only... Again,
which page?
Sorry,
members.
Chair, 76. Patrick Hall, and indeed the narrative there, this community are very active and have approached the council. My understanding of this situation, Chair, is that this has been outstanding for some time, but the community or the community council in Patrick actually want the building on a freehold basis, not only transferred but given over to them. You know, in that respect, is that the intention for 14-15?
Colin?
What it says in the report is that asset transfer to make a saving of £3,000 and discussions are underway. I think what's important, and you touched on the previous process that was gone through, and I was as critical as anyone over the previous process in terms of the fact that it was effectively remitted to officers and member scrutiny wasn't necessarily there through Policy and Resources Committee, where I thought it should be. These proposals will have to come and be scrutinised by the Community and Customer Services Committee. And that will be a role for that new committee, and you'll have to play that role. So I mean, I believe that they should be scrutinised, absolutely.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you, Leader. I've got 2 or 3 questions which I would like to ask on 2 or 3 different proposals. Page 79, where there is a suggestion to remove 14 to 18 staff members out of the service, which includes the area framework, strategic improvement and engagement, and strategic planning and resource planning. Now, I can't tell from this, and I would dearly like to have some help as to where these people are going to come from and what service re-engineering will cost, and therefore what the net savings is going to be. It's not clear to me how these are going to be achieved and what the impact would be on, say, for argument's sake, area framework members of staff who are supposed to be working to facilitate locality teams in the local areas. So it's not clear to me what's going to happen here. Maybe I could be enlightened, please. And that's my first question.
Okay, if we can't enlighten you today, we'll get back to Councillor Smith.
I mean, as I say, it's an interesting question. It's taken Councillor Maitland 2 years to think it up, because obviously this is a similar stencil to previous years. in relation to savings and a continuation of that work. Which individuals go depend on which individuals apply for early voluntary redundancy. I'm not entirely sure what she means in relation to additional costs. Obviously, any cost of redundancy is being met from the change fund, and we've had previous reports around that. I would have thought that a perfectly reasonable request from the Community Customer Services Committee would be to ask for details of what the actual individual structures are. We've had quite a lot of restructuring in this department and the previous one over the last few years. I've never once heard Councillor Maitland ask for example, a breakdown of what that new structure is. Maybe that's something she might want to ask when it's taken forward by officers.
Thanks. I'll come back to you later. Councillor McComb, same point. Okay.
Thank you. Well, the good Lord rejoiced over sinners who repented. So maybe, actually, I'd be perfectly happy to say, I am a sinner repenting. I'll also point out, actually, that I have, in fact, asked in the past about staffing, and particularly with respect to the Chief Executive Service. If you remember rightly, I asked how many people were employed in the Chief Executive Service out with Nithsdale, and the answer's none. However, going back to this particular one here, Chairman, it is a legitimate question, I think, to ask about what the effect is going to be. There's no indication here, as there are in other templates, to indicate what it's going to cost, what the service redesign is, and what the costs are. And to be honest, Leader, I think this is looking more and more unmanaged. It's a finger in the air exercise. It's a wing and a prayer and a hope. It's not clear to me what you're actually trying to achieve. I'd be much happier if you could explain to me as an administration what you are actually trying to achieve with these cuts to be made.
Thanks very much for your question, Councillor Maitland. And you didn't. I'm very surprised you asked this today, especially when you had the opportunity yesterday when I asked you if there was any questions on it. But anyway, that's fine. You chose today to grandstand. But Councillor Smith.
Don't have anything to add to the previous answer. I mean, if Councillor Maitland wants to see what the structure is going to be, then that's something she's perfectly legitimately entitled to ask. What we're trying to achieve, the answer is £7 million worth of savings with a minimum impact on the frontline services. We've actually seen, I think it's highlighted by Councillor Scobie, the fact that we've had things like integration and previous other things that obviously Councillor Maitland has voted for, seen quite a lot of reductions in staffing, particularly in the front line. What we're proposing here is reductions that are focused very much on the management structure. Seems to me perfectly logical that if you reduce the frontline services, then you've got a scope to reduce your management structure. I would have thought, given the fact that most of the savings is around management structure, that's something that Councillor Maitland would have supported, given the fact that we have reduced frontline services through previous budget savings. Will there be an impact in service? Of course there'll be an impact in service. Staff in this council, there's been over 1,000 members of staff lost over recent years. Councillor Maitland described that in a previous meeting as good news in front of everyone. It was good that the council had lost 1,000 staff. Well, it will mean increased workload for people. It will mean increased work that they have to do, and it will mean a slower service on occasions. I think what we've been lucky so far is that some of the changes, particularly in this department, haven't massively impacted on frontline service, and I think that's a credit to the staff. But if Councillor Maitland has a view that we can make £7 million worth of savings and we don't need to reduce staff, then I'll be delighted to hear it.
Councillor McComb.
Thank you, Leader. Getting back to the integrated services, do we have any statistical information to indicate how many of the users access more than one service at a time?
Thanks very much for that question. We'll provide that information. It's quite detailed, so we'll get back to you on that. Okay, Councillor Geddes.
Thanks very much indeed, Leader. It's just to hark back, if I may, sir, to the assurance that Councillor Smith gave to Councillor Scobie that there will be a full and proper scrutiny exercise taken by the CCS committee in relation to the implementation of these proposals. I find that hugely reassuring, and I would say it's a massive improvement on what didn't take place last year.
Thank you. Councillor Diggle.
Thank you, Leader. Just page 84, the integration of the Lochmaven Library and Customer Service Centre. Whilst I welcome this, and I think it'll be a huge step forward for Lochmaven, and maybe it'll be used for a model for other places, the start of the works was delayed. It was supposed to start in December. And I have it, and the reason we were given was because they were trying to obtain listed building consent. I found out from the proper officer that listing building consent was actually okayed on the October the 18th. I'm still trying to, I'm struggling to find out what's happening, and I'd be grateful if someone could get back to me and let me know when works will start and what the schedule of works will be.
Mr. Haswell will get back to you on that. Thanks. Anyone else? Councillor Scobie?
Maybe sitting too far away to your left eye, Ronnie. Could I also echo the sentiments and the assurances being given by Colin as the author of the co-author of the budget? But having said that, then it is very difficult to, as I said, to scrutinise this one when it will be agreed come February. The early part of February, as has been said earlier, the new committee doesn't meet till well into February. He did refer to, was it 80,000 that would be in reserve? If there is an impact on the services and the integration, then I would sincerely hope that monies would be made available in terms of providing the services, as I have referred to in Stranraer, to the satisfaction of the service users. If I could have that assurance.
Thanks. There's an £80,000 contingency fund there. How that's used, I'll go back to CCS and they'll scrutinise. Okay, Councillor Maitland, do you want back in?
Yes, please. I've got two more questions. Page 95, and this is really following up on an issue that was raised in the public forum at Kukubri. A member of the public asked what would the impact be on the public, the user, of the removal of the staff on that page at the top there, the school lets and the savings. I would like to reiterate that question because the member of the public did not get an answer to that. I would really like to know what these people do with respect to the public and what will be the impact upon them not being there. That's my first question.
Before I bring Councillor Smith in, can I just say on that consultation, every person had their questions listened to, and everyone was told, and Councillor Maitland was there at the time, that if the questions weren't answered, they would get back to them with an answer. So Councillor Maitland knew that. So that part of it, Councillor Smith.
I'm not entirely sure what the question actually is, to be honest. I think what the actual proposal is to transfer the booking system to education rather than sport and leisure staff. So that's where the savings being made.
But excuse me, presumably people have a full-time job, and if what is happening is that there is a re-engineering here, we ought to know what cannot be done within the time that they've got. Either that, or there must be something, some sort of efficiency that you're able to explain to us. So that's the sort of information that we need to know. It's not unreasonable, I don't think, Leader, to ask that question.
Councillor Smith, you want back in?
I have to confess I don't actually understand the question. The reduction in staffing because education will take on the responsibility for the letting service. That's what the saving option actually is for those particular facilities.
Okay, you had one further question?
I do. I think the question is about the common good on page 91. It's just that my understanding, and it's a member who raised this with me, my understanding was that Lochside was in the common good, and I think there was just a bit of a concern among certainly members of the public that the caravan park was on the common good, so there was a difficulty in being able to let it out to a member of the public. Could somebody please assure me about that that's okay?
Okay, go on.
I don't have any information to say whether it's in the common good or not. If it is, then obviously there'll be a process to go through if we decide to lease it out.
Alex?
That's something we can check. If there is a proposal to lease Lochside, any income from Lochside would obviously go to the common good. The savings are in revenue. The savings are not to do with anything to do with the lease of the land or anything like that. We will reduce the revenue by leasing these caravan sites out to private owners. We've proven that that works. We will check the common good, and if it's necessary, go through the appropriate process to ensure that any income is funded to the common good fund, which it won't currently be getting because the council's taking the income.
Okay, Ian.
Sorry for prolonging the debate in regards to Councillor Maitland's question. Just for absolute clarity, and Colin's answered it, I think it was asked, I think it just about every area through the budget consultation. But see, in regards to that does that mean, is Colin saying that financial side of that budget will be moved into education budget and absorbed there, or will there be staff taking earlier voluntary retirement, redundancy, whatever it may be? Is it DG First currently running it at the moment? Just look for detail. I can go back to this at a later stage, but it just says, will there be MD getting made redundant or taking early redundancy on at this stage, or is it just like the way it happened at Annan Community Centre last year, what was being proposed, the budget would just move to the Education Department?
There will have to be a staff reduction to make the savings. Education will take on part of the workload, but there will have to be a staff reduction to make that saving. I think that's set out on page 95 at the top. £63,000 saving, and there's details of staff there. Obviously, there'll be redeployment issues as well.
Okay. Jim?
Thanks, Leader. Page 88, down at the bottom of the table. The savings. There is a reduction in the cash uplift services, a saving of 25,000. What happened to the payment which the council received from DGHP for uplifting cash?
DGHP have moved their operations considerably. They're not paying us for uplifting cash that we're not uplifting. They have gone to pay points. They've now got their own collection facilities, and the arrangements with the council have changed dramatically. We're not getting resource or very little resource from DGHP in relation to uplifting cash. This is our direct savings from not having cash in buildings in quantity, which requires Securicor or whatever they are now to come every day to uplift small amounts of money.
Leader, do you take it from that the payment would be minimal from DGHP? Thank you.
Okay, turn to the recommendations. We've scrutinised the details of the Omnibus Administration budget, and if there's any questions that's been unanswered, I think Alex has given commitment to get back on one of them at least. Thanks. If we can move to item 7, we're asked to consider firstly our Council's continued membership of the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, noting the required payment of the 2014-15 levy, and secondly, member attendance at the joint COSLA and Improvement Service Conference, Going Local, Scotland's Future, which is being held on the 13th and 14th of March 2014 at Fairmount, St Andrews. Dumfries and Galloway Council and predecessor authorities have been members of COSLA since the latter was set up in 1975. At present, all of Scotland's 32 local authorities are members. COSLA's constitution requires the Council to give a full financial year's notice of termination of membership. Dumfries and Galloway Council is therefore bound to pay the 2014-15 levy. Even if a decision to terminate its membership were to be made at this committee meeting, the annual levy has remained static in recent years, and for 2014-15, COSLA has indicated it will again be in the region of £91,638 plus VAT. Indirect costs, principally principally comprise a member and officer time and expenses to attend meetings. Members will recall that the COSLA convention held on the 13th of December 2013 debated a motion from the Scottish Borders Council to establish a short-life task group comprising the President, Vice President and the political group leaders to review the Constitution and standing orders of the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities. Convention agreed a scoping paper for the review be worked up for a presentation to the leaders in January. It's likely, therefore, that the review findings will not be known until the summer. We need to determine the Council's membership now. There are 4 options set out at page 106 of the committee papers. Insofar as the conference is concerned, it's really for members to determine the number of members attending, if any. The Director won't answer any questions on that. Members? Ivor?
Chair, it's just with regard to the report that's coming before COSLA. Are we sure that we'll have Timaeus report so that we can, if we take any options, for example, option 2, whereby we're saying that we'll notify them, but we have the ability to report it, to withdraw that notification. Do we know that we'll have an answer before they go to the next year?
It's all I can say is it's expected then. Okay, so I mean, we'll know better after the leaders' meeting when, but it's not, you know, it won't be in the summer sometime. They're just asking for the remit of the review and, you know, the mechanisms. So it'll probably be summertime, but we won't have plenty of time. Councillor Scobie?
Yeah, Chair, notwithstanding that this committee has delegated powers from full council and is a proportional committee.
Sorry, well, I can't.
Sorry, again. Aye, notwithstanding that it has delegated powers and it's a proportional committee, can I ask, Chair, that this paper be referred to the full council for further consideration, given what has been said earlier by Colin and others, then we have some enormous amount of savings to be found, and this is an area that could be looked at. You also referred to that it would take a year's notice anyway, should the council wish or decide to withdraw. So I would assume there is still time to do that and to refer the paper for consideration by all members, again, notwithstanding the delegation that PNR has.
I think, you know, what Ivor was saying earlier about option 2, and for example, he agreed to advise COSLA before the 31st of March that, you know, we terminate its membership as from effective 1st April 2015, but we reserve the right to withdraw that once we know the information about how COSLA is going to, you know, work. We don't actually know how it's going to work in the future until this review's over, and that's part of the, you know, that's partly why we need to look at that here to determine whether we've got enough information on how COSLA works. Councillor Scobie? Yeah, Chair, I'm grateful for the explanation. Again, I would request that rather than PNR, notwithstanding what I've already said, that the full council get be given a consideration on this item. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Scobie? No. Any other member? Councillor Carruthers first. So.
Thanks for
Sorry, Councillor McGregor.
I'll give way to Councillor McGregor, in fact. Okay, thanks very much. In regards to the report, I think this year is a very important year when it comes to having a joint approach across Scotland with the referendum and so on taking place. I think we should apply opt out for option 4 in this case to see the outcome of what happens. In regards to that, I think at 2.4 in the recommendations, I think it's, I mean, the whole theme is based on Scotland's future and how we go forward at that conference. I was there last year. I was lucky to see the debate between the Deputy First Minister and Alistair Darling, which was very good. So it was, to say the least, and I think that all group leaders should get the chance to go up to attend this to maximise any benefits that we may receive from this in regards to the referendum as we go forward.
Councillor Smith.
I mean, I would be inclined to talk to propose option 2, I have to say. I mean, I take on board what Ian says in terms of we have to wait to see what the review is, but I think by proposing option 2, you actually allow yourself that because you have to give a year's notice. We'll actually have the outcome of the review before our membership was terminated. But I do think we should give notice to terminate our membership and wait the outcome of this report. I mean, I'm not really prepared to sign up for something that I don't actually know what it's going to be. I mean, what Scottish Borders Council seem to be proposing is a bit bizarre, to say the least. So we would effectively be signing up for something, and then we may not like it, but we then have to give another year's notice. So I mean, I'm quite happy with option 2, to give notice that our membership's terminated. And if actually the outcome of the review is something this council supports, then so be it. We continue our membership. But as things stand, I'm not prepared to sign up for a club that, frankly, I don't know what the rules are and what the membership actually is.
Councillor McGregor. Eventually got to you.
Thank you. I feel like a cast member on Mock the Week. Whatever I say now is not going to be funny anyway. I mean, I personally have found COSLA of huge value over the last few years, particularly in relation to lobbying and a lot of the work they've done through the Rural Schools Commission and such like. So I think it's certainly had a huge value, but I agree with Councillor Smith. We're in a period of change and we don't know what's coming, and to commit ourselves sort of long term to a non-quantifiable at the moment could be quite dangerous. So I'm very happy to second Councillor Smith.
Okay, Councillor Geddes.
Thanks very much, Leader. Essentially, sir, my understanding of it is that all that we're doing if we adopt option 2 is reserving our position. And I think that's prudent in the circumstances.
Thank you. Can we... Sorry, Councillor Maitland.
Yes, I can understand up to a point, but there's a bit of games being played on here. If you look at 3.5, it is perfectly clear that for an organisation like Dumfries and Galloway Council not to belong to something like COSLA, it would be absolutely bizarre. I mean, it would be extraordinary. It would be cutting ourselves off from information, influence, knowledge, all the things which we have to have as a peripheral area. So, okay, if you want to send up a message, I think I would actually suggest that we don't. And so I will, I think, probably propose to go for option 3. You'll win it, and so be it. But I think that's the wrong message to be trying to send. And so I think I'll try and give 1 or 2 people the opportunity of saying that's not a sensible thing. So I think we should go for option 3.
Councillor Ogilvie.
Thanks, Chair. I take the totally opposite view. I think this is politics. We're on politics. If some local authorities are trying to change the rules or whatever, I think it's fair enough for us to say, look, you know, we're not sure of what we're committing to. We'll commit for this year and with a view of reviewing it and withdrawing. That, to me, that safeguards us both ways.
Councillor McClung.
Yeah, I would agree with Councillor Ogilvie, and I would go for option 2 as well. To say that you would go for option 3, not knowing in the middle of next year what the rules are going to be. If we don't like the rules, we're going to be spending another 110,000 the next year if we didn't want to be members, because we would have to give a further year. And option 3 says we couldn't get out until 2016, whereas option 2 says that if they change the rules on us and we don't like the rules, we get out in 2015. It would be a waste of another £110,000.
Thank you. We've got a motion on the table. Okay. No other amendment. Yeah, there's no seconder yet. Does Councillor Maitland have a seconder? Councillor McClung.
Okay. The motion is option 2 and the amendment is option 3. So we're all clear what we're voting. Okay, Leader. Option 2, the motion. Deputy Leader.
Option 2.
Councillor Carruthers.
Motion's option 2, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep, motion.
Councillor Davidson.
Motion.
Councillor Diggle.
Motion?
Councillor Dykes.
Motion.
Councillor Geddes.
Motion.
Councillor Hislop.
Motion.
Councillor Lever.
Motion.
Councillor McGregor.
Motion.
Councillor Maitland.
Amendment.
Councillor Marshall.
Motion.
Councillor McCottrey.
Motion.
Councillor McClung.
Motion.
Councillor McComb.
Amendment.
Councillor Ogilvie.
Motion.
Councillor Scobie. Councillor Smith.
Motion.
Councillor Tate.
Motion.
Okay. The motion, which is option 2, is carried 17 votes to 2.
Thank you. That's recommendation 2.3 taken care of. Can we go through the other recommendations? We note 2.1 and 2.2. We have to come back to 2.4, which is to agree the level of member attendance. I think Councillor Carruthers, you had...
Can reiterate, just it was to maximise the benefit in the run-up to the referendum, that all group leaders should get the opportunity, whether they go on their own accord or not, just to take up this chance.
Councillor Maitland.
I think it would be bizarre to reward a political party that's managed to split itself in two with 2 seats at a conference. So no, we'll send it exactly as we did before: 1 Labour, 1 SNP, 1 Independent, and 1, whoever it is, Conservative. And I would suggest strongly that it should be the leader of the larger Conservative group.
We've got proposals here, and I'm not, I'm not wanting a fight between different parties or within parties of that. So we've got something here: the leaders of each group, or a representative from each group. Okay. And how they get there or whatever they do after that is up to them. Okay. Thanks. Okay, if we move on to item 8, which is a Community Empowerment Scotland Bill report by Assistant Chief Executive. This report contains the Council's proposed response to Scottish Government consultation on the Community Empowerment Bill. The response is based on members' views obtained at a very successful seminar, which took place on the Tuesday, 7th of January. The draft has also been considered by political groups. The Assistant Chief Executive will answer any questions, members? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Andy will. Well, you're in good company. I forgot I was a leader for a minute, but... Any members, any questions? Councillor Carruthers?
No question, just the seminar was a thoroughly good day. It was a good chance to get our points across, and I agree entirely what's within the report, Leader.
Councillor Maitland?
Leader, I'm sorry to say this. This is a procedural issue. This paper came out extremely late, if I've got it. Extremely late, along with the exempt item. And I will hold up my hands. I have not read it. I have not had the chance to read it. I have not read it. And on that basis, Chairman, I decline to take part in it because I haven't had the chance to read it.
Chairman, I acknowledge fully that the paper came out late. The consultation was very short. we required to get it round members. We had the seminar. There was an understanding among members that when the seminar was held that we need to reflect all the views that came forward. We had it out on the Friday to enable political groups to consider it over the weekend. Andy made himself available on Monday to talk to political groups should they wish that to happen, and we had to wait until we had feedback from the political groups before we finally circulated the paper. We accept it's been at short notice. We're against the time in relation to replying to the consultation. I accept the points which Councillor Maitland made. We tried to work as best we could within the timescale permitted to us by the consultation people.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thanks, Leader. I mean, I think I would endorse what's in the response here, because I think it reflects what took place at the seminar. But I would express my concern about the bill itself. It's pretty wishy-washy for all it's paraded out to be. And particularly with regard to the common good, I don't think we're much further forward than we were before, because the bill is making it quite clear it's not going to give a definition of common good. So this will be left yet again to interpretation by council. So that's a big weakness. And the whole question of common good, I don't think it's taken as much further than where we are at the moment. And I think there's other areas within there as well that are fairly weak, in that they haven't covered every public body in terms of what should be seen as a public body. So it's a pretty weak bill. I don't think it addresses a lot of the issues that people actually thought it would.
Can we go to the recommendations? We're asked to agree the response. Dennis. Okay, moving on to item 9, which is Community and Customer Services, National Strategy for Public Libraries. The report sets out the case for a national strategy for public libraries that's put forward by the Scottish Library and Information Council on behalf of COSLA Sports, Arts and Culture Working Group. The intention of the strategy is to widen facilities provided within public libraries and to focus on key priority areas. The Council is already widening the facilities provided within libraries in terms of the integration of libraries, registration and customer services, and our direction of travel appears very much in line with the proposed national strategy. The administration is fully supportive for the strategy on the basis that it is not prescriptive and recognises local requirements. It is also being suggested that our Council might offer to become involved in the development of the strategy. The Director will answer any questions. Members? Can we turn to the recommendations? Can we agree the recommendations? Moving on to item 10, this is Capital Investment Strategy Monitoring for the period ending 30th of November 2013, incorporating updates on property, buildings, non-schools, land and ICT business systems asset class monitoring positions. This report provides members with an overview of the financial and physical progress of the agreed capital investment strategy for the current financial year. Anticipated net spend in 2013-14 will be 35,067,000, which reflects an acceleration of 377,000 from 2014-15 capital programme. Appendix 2 of the report provides a brief update on the progress of each of the corporate priority projects and asset class programmes, and greater detail of each of these programmes is provided in the separate asset class monitoring report for which this committee is responsible. Indicative allocations have already been agreed for 2014-15, but further work is being undertaken to update asset class update asset class funding bids and additional corporate priority project funding bids, including the Dumfries Learning Town. I understand this will be reported to the next meeting of this committee, and the officers are here to answer any members' questions. Members? No questions? Councillor Smith?
I don't have any questions on the actual report, Chair. I just a general observation about capital investment, and I hope, obviously, as leader, you'll grasp the whole issue that's been your predecessor didn't grasp, and that was the fact that we don't really seem to have a clear policy on when we agree the capital investment strategy. I've always had the view that it should be agreed at the same time as the revenue budget. I think the two are linked. I think the fact that we've got a revenue budget that includes £500,000 worth of capitalisation makes that even more an important way forward. We were kind of told that we couldn't do that by a predecessor because actually we needed to agree the capital investment strategy in November to give a long lead-in time to the new financial year. But what we're basically being told today is next year's capital investment strategy won't get agreed to March. Now, I know that looking at the e-agenda for the committee I chair, I'll have to chair a meeting to allocate the funding for a particular class that goes before that committee. That meeting will take place in March. I'm presuming that report will have to be written before we've actually agreed what the capital investment allocation is for the forthcoming year. And I appreciate we've got kind of indicative figures, but there's obviously a piece of work to be done there. And I just think we have to, in terms of the budget, and it's just a statement, the budget setting process going forward, we need to align the capital and the revenue budget together and agree a budget. We've just had a consultation with the public on revenue. We'd never consult the public in the past on what we spend our capital on, and I think we should. And I think bringing the two together gives a fairer reflection of what the council's budget is.
Okay, do you want to comment on any of that?
Just to agree, really, that I think it would be better if we had managed to agree the capital investment strategy for the upcoming period by now. We had anticipated bringing a report forward to this meeting on the development of the investment strategy. There's two main reasons why that's been delayed. The first and the main one is that the Scottish Government have not announced details of the capital grant settlement for 2015-16. They had anticipated doing that in December, but that's now been delayed. I'm expecting the grant to increase in 15-16, but it's very much an estimate. At this stage, we're very wary of seeking members' decisions based on those estimates until we get further clarification on that. The other thing is that some of our major projects, things like the Dumfries Learning Town and flood prevention schemes, we're currently clarifying the funding requirements in relation to them, so it'll take us to March to come forward with that report.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you very much, Leader. I know on page 127 there's reference made in an update with regard to the potential for a 3G pitch at Langham Primary, and certainly Lockerbie and Langham have recently been declined by Sports Scotland for additional funding towards those 3G facilities. And it was, I've spoken to the Leader and the Deputy Leader about this anyway. It was just to get assurances that we could maybe have a full update on the March report as to how we're going to progress with those two communities. Because I think the communities need clarification, and certainly the local members do. And it's just to find a constructive way forward in a report, or part of a report in March, if you would.
Yes. Councillor Scobie.
Yeah, Chair, it's in page 127, reference to property buildings within schools, and there's reference in respect of...
Sorry, Councillor Scobie.
Speak up again. Shout. No, page 127, reference property buildings within schools and Education Committee. There's reference to kitchen there. I would ask the question whether indeed there is any capital investment required in terms of the policy that has been announced by the Scottish Government in terms of primaries 1, 2 and 3 having free school meals, to those ones that have servery provision to full kitchen. Should the numbers increase, and we've got to look at that again.
Okay, Paul.
I had a meeting on Friday with the head of service and DG for honour requirements associated with that new legislation. That we're not anticipating being any requirements in terms of major capital investment, in terms of any alterations. There will be some investment required in equipment, but that's to be accommodated within the funding that's being made available.
Okay. We got the recommendations. Can we note 1, 2, 3 and 4? Okay, before moving on to item 11, which is the council revenue budget monitoring for the period 30th of November 2013. Before we go in to that, Alex has got something to say on this.
Thanks, Leader. Members will note that paragraph 2.3, we're asking members to agree the allocation of 156,000 towards the requirements to meet commercial waste collection service needs. Item 13 on the agenda, no, item 14 on the agenda is in fact a homologation with 14, homologation of a decision already taken by the Chief Executive. There was a need to meet the requirements of our customers to bring forward the purchase of certain equipment and bins and things like that to start the commercial waste collection service as early as we could into the new calendar year. That decision was taken by the Chief Executive after consultation, so I'm asking members if they would accept that paragraph 2.3, rather than agree, should be to note the allocation of £156,000. That decision was taken in the interests of expediency and in terms of the standing orders.
Okay, Councillor McGregor.
Leader, it's just an insignificant point, and I should have brought it up under the previous paper as well. The appendixes, we used to get larger A3 sizes, and I maybe need my eyes tested, but I nearly went blind trying to read some of these appendixes, and I think certainly Councillor Dempster's mentioned it in the past. If we could either have an electronic copy or a larger copy, that would be very useful.
Okay, officers, give this year and I'll go back to that. I'll go on. Okay. If we can move to the substance of the report provides a summary of the forecast expenditure against budgets available for each of the council services in the current year, and also provides a forecast of year-end general fund balances. A summary forecast outturn statement for the current financial year is provided in Appendix 1. Details of the individual budget variances will be reported to the respective service committees. The avoidance of overspending against budget continues to present a significant challenge for services, with current monitoring information highlighting potential areas of pressure within social work and planning and environment. However, it is fully anticipated that all council services, with the potential exception of social work, will be able to contain expenditure by the end of the current financial year through the implementation of tight spending control measures and active budget management. The social work budget is continuing to experience pressures in relation to increased service needs and client numbers, particularly with children and families services. The most recent monitoring information has indicated that the potential overspend against allocated budget has increased to £350,000 from the previously reported £205,000, primarily due to additional emergency agency placements in excess of previously anticipated levels. This will be met from within the overall resources allocated to social work services, and a report on the management of these placements will be presented to the next Social Work Services Committee on 31st of January. The corporate issues that are currently anticipated to impact on the Council's finance position include the release of £300,000 to Corporate Change Fund from savings against building safety and feasibility studies, additional incomes of £600,000 based on the current collection levels of council tax, expenditure of £156,000 from the corporate contingency budget to comply with the financial implications of the council's commercial waste, that's the one we've talked about, and potentially £150,000 in respect to annual payments of the Waste Management Recycling PFI contract. Paul, have you anything further to add on that?
Just happy to answer questions, thanks, Chair.
Members? Councillor Scovey?
Yeah, it's in relation to your remarks, with the exception of social work under 3.4. Was it a bit of an irony? The social work service management team are fully committed to returning a balanced budget. I think we've got to recognise that this is a budget on needs-led, and indeed where it recognises that the overspend is on an agency placement, my understanding is that there still remains a pressure on the kinship care budget, and that people are waiting on payment, but I'm not sure if that is being made, and I've raised this with the Chief Social Worker. So in that respect, Chair, I think we've got to accept that the budget may not come into line, however people the efforts are trying to make to bring it into line, or at least are committed to it. But I think we've got to recognise the pressures, not only on the agency placements, but other services, and that we allow, you know, so be it that maybe social work has to take that decision, but we try to address the pressures that are on there and to give payments to people who are financially suffering from services that are being provided.
Thanks. There'll be a report to social work on these issues. Thanks. Okay, any other questions? With the recommendations, can we note 1, 2, 3 and 4? Okay, item 12. This is the Chief Executive Service Budget Monitoring Report. The report provides members with an overview of key budget monitoring issues and projected performance against budget for the current financial year for Chief Executive Services based on the position as at 30th of November 2013. The service projects a small underspend of £23,000 and the savings tracker shows that the agreed savings amount will be fully secured during the current financial year. Members? Move to the recommendation. Sorry, Ivor?
Maybe a daft laddie question, but just on the savings that have to be achieved, we've got the VoIP telephony project, which is at progress stage completed 1. Does that mean to actually say the saving, it's also achieved 4, where the saving has been achieved, or is it just a case that you've had it reduced from your budget, but you don't know if you've actually achieved the saving?
The saving is being achieved. I'm not, to be fair, I'm not sure whether the number should actually have changed in this appendix. We'll check that, but certainly the saving is being achieved as planned.
Councillor McGregor?
Just a very quick question, because I'm not very good at accounts. The Modern Apprentice Plus and the graduate programme, why was the budget variance of those figures within those? What does that mean?
Paul?
Basically, particularly in relation to the Modern Apprentice scheme, the budget is £5 million over 5 years. What we do is we are spreading that based on required spend in each year. Rather than have £1 million for 5 years in a row, the budget is varied and phased depending on when the requirement is, but it still remains within the £5 million total over a 5-year period.
Okay, can we move to the recommendations? Can we note 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3? Okay, moving on to item 13, which is a mid-term review, which is required to meet one of the requirements of the SIPFA Code of Practice on Treasury Management and covers the period April to November 2013. The main areas covered include economic update for the first 8 months of 2013-14, a review of the Treasury Management Strategy Statement and Annual Investment Strategy, the Council's capital expenditure prudential indicators, a review of the Council's investment portfolio, a review of the Council's borrowing strategy, a review of any debt scheduling undertaken, a review of compliance with Treasury and prudential limits. Andrew, have you anything to add?
Nothing more to add, but happy to take questions.
Members? Ivor?
Chair, in line with the, I think it was the latest Treasury figures, we've actually managed to achieve the 2% CPI inflation. Does that give us some comfort that interest rates in the shorter term won't rise early, as we have that sort of, we've hit the target for the Bank of England, so they won't need to raise them?
Andrew?
The chances of an interest rate rise in the near future, I think, are fairly slight. The CPI target has been there for 2 or 3 years and it obviously hasn't been met. I think there's more to in the background. I don't think that will have a major effect on the interest rates and any movement in the near future. There's other issues there, more the cost of any interest rates coming through, given low wage inflation, etc., etc.
Okay, move to the recommendations. Can we note? Item 14, this is the DG First Commercial Waste Collection Service. This is the £156,000 towards the initial set-up costs in connection with the Council Statutory Waste Collection Service. This is report is for homologation. Can I ask members? Councillor Carruthers?
Just a small comment, because I was reading through this. I know it's been dealt with already and it was referred to earlier, but the question was burning through my mind that finally got answered at 4.10, and I find it a real criticism, not of the council, but certainly of our agencies, partners, you could say, SEPA and Zero Waste Scotland, in regards to coming with this information at the last minute. That's what's pretty much saying is the only reason we've been held back as long. I mean, we've known about this for about 3 years. It's been ongoing, it's coming and coming and coming, and we've had to make a decision through expedited procedures. It's ridiculous putting the council under that kind of pressure.
Jim?
Thanks, Leader. Page 165. Can any light be shed on the nature of the unforeseen delays? It says there, delays in clarification of the statutory commercial waste legislation. What is the background behind that delay?
Yeah, there may be commercial sensitivities to that.
I'd be happy to arrange for Councillor Combe to receive a response to that, either verbally or in writing, from a technical officer. There are issues in there in relation to commercial confidentiality, which I don't think, Leader, you'd wish to discuss in a public meeting.
Okay, Ivor.
Chair, it's just a point of clarification with regard to paragraph 4.4 and the additional annual cost of 243,500. Is that still held within the envelope that was identified under the waste uplift, whereby we wouldn't have any financial impact to this council on changing from the current waste uplift to the new system? We were told it'd be cost neutral.
Paul?
No, this is actually a separate pressure. It's been reflected within the budget model that's presented to full council before Christmas. What we're looking at is a price review to at least partially offset these increased costs. So we're looking at being a lower figure than that 244,000 recorded there. But it is a separate issue, but has been accommodated within the overall budget model.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, from memory, the no cost to the council that Councillor Hislop's talking about was for household waste. This is commercial waste, which is slightly different.
Councillor Smith?
I mean, I think the key point is that, thank goodness we've actually gone ahead with this. The commercial waste actually brings significant income into this council. It provides a service, obviously, to local businesses, but there are competitors out there. And if we hadn't continued our commercial waste provision, then I really worry about what the impact on the income of the council would have been. So I'm pleased this has gone ahead. I think, well, our argument that maybe it should have gone ahead earlier, but at least it's gone ahead now, and we're actually providing this service and bringing substantial income into the council.
Okay, can we homologate this report? Sorry, Councillor Carruthers.
Thanks, it's just a small one. I mean, the question, because it's here for homologation, it's covered a lot of my questions, but it is referred to that there will be a price increase. I'm only wondering where that is. Has that decision been made? Is it delegated? What committee does it go to if it comes back to committee?
Chair, that decision will come back. There'll be a report to DG first. and it will be for DG First to determine that. All that we've done here is agree to purchase the necessary equipment to set up the service.
Okay, can we agree there? Okay, item 15 of no other business. Item 16, can I move that we adopt a resolution to exclude the public from the meeting for the reasons detailed in the agenda?